Hey,
Cool, man.
what's up, man? Welcome to Red River Podcast, episode number 100 and whatever. A little backstory on today's episode. My buddy Antonio, who one of you guys works with, I guess, I don't even know. He basically was like, yo, my friend, made this horror movie, and he sends me the trailer, and it's called Alone Together. And you never know what you're gonna see when you see a trailer. You're like, or like it's like, like anything. It's like my friend made this, check it out, like maybe you guys could talk. The trailer is fucking awesome. So today that's what we're gonna talk about.
Thank
Basically, we're gonna talk to Will, we're gonna talk to Eric, and just kind of get to know each other for a little bit and just see what the deal is. So tell me about this movie.
Yeah, well, first of all, the connection is Alexander Vernonbach he was in my fraternity at Syracuse, and we did a lot of weird late nights together. And he's like a prolifically bizarre novelist, and he does some just the things he does with words is strange and wonderful. And he approached me during the pandemic when we were all shut down, all production was shut down. We're just kind of like stewing in our own just rage. And he's like, "Hey, man, I have this pitch. It's essentially it's a horror movie. It's a ghost story, but rather than the ghost just tormenting some poor couple, it inspires this woman who's in this dreadful relationship to exact her revenge and escape." And I was kind of like, okay, that's sick. Like I can't think of anything that really hits that mark. So we dove into the writing process and just went all in with it. And that was like 3 years ago. But that's the gentleman who set up with you. And I've been enjoying your podcast for the last week. Listen to you guys talk about people getting their heads chopped off and everything. It's been a gas for real.
Yeah, for October, for October, we always kind of like kick it, super horror centric. So, we did 4 episodes to celebrate October because it's our favorite, So that's why
Yeah.
I celebrated six weeks a year, basically.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna keep it going because we talk to movie direct. Basically, the show is movies, pop culture, music and stuff like that. So we've always have directors, and anytime someone has like an indie flick that they want to pitch or tell people about, it's just like, yeah, man, we're all basically a collective doing stuff together. Like I said, I still play in a band, so I know what it's like to basically make something, get the grind, and then get the word out and stuff like that. So, man, I really love the plot. Like when I read the plot and I saw the trailer, like I didn't really, which is good. I didn't really get too much as to what the plot was with the trailer, because I cut it like halfway through because I didn't really want. I don't know how you guys are with trailers. I just didn't want to know
Yeah.
too
No, I
much
feel
about
you.
it.
Just vibes, baby.
Just
Yeah.
vibes, right? So
It's
like,
the trailer is the lingerie. All right. You want just a little of that shoulder, like peek over
yeah,
the shoulder with the lit, and you're like, ooh, what is that? And then boom, it's gone. And you're like, aha,
absolutely. Yeah,
now I
yeah.
gotta see more.
Because like you see, like, even like the Halloween trailer, I'll always remember like that 2018 Halloween trailer where they show Michael Myers in the closet, and like that's like one of like the biggest like oh shit moments in the movie. But
Dude,
like
straight to jail. Straight to
everyone's
jail. You can't be doing that.
everyone's waiting for it, and it's like if it wasn't in the trailer, you'd be like, holy shit, because it was such a shock. So I really love, like I said, the premise to it. I got the vibe from it, and then I know enough to see two actors do really good. And like the female in the trailer, I'm like, yo, she's like, I believe anything she's like selling. So tell me about the two people in the movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, my brother is the lead. His name's Matty Kresch. He's been acting for a while. He went to the Oslo rep in Florida, and that's where he met Deanna. And Maddie's been like my like surrogate muse or like my doppelganger who I behind the camera and he is on the screen. We did one other short film together, and he just has this just boiling internal just like I don't know, just like shakes and spews out of him. And I've known him since he was like a little kid. We have all these weird old videos of us dicking around in the backyard with the camcorder. So he and I just kind of like have been working in this way, not officially for our whole lives. And it's just always been fun. And he's of course the first person when I got pitched the movie, I was like, hey, what do you think? This is gonna be you. And we built the character together, and he's just like the amount of rage that he can exude, but also the amount of like this like wounded person that you want to like hug and nurture at the same time, and he scares you, and you love him and you're kind of afraid of him, but chicks are somehow turned on by this. I'm not sure exactly what's all in that soup, but he has this screen presence, and he has done a bunch of Shakespeare with Deanna S. Wright, and that's the female that you're referring to, our leading lady, our final girl. No spoilers, but she's something to behold. There were no casting. Was, hey, can you please do this with us?
Yeah, yeah.
And then showing her this script, or my pitch to her was like, listen, this is gonna be one of the most raw. The script asks of you to truly just set yourself on fire, and we're going to do it a couple times a day, and it's going to be tough. And I've never seen anyone more. I mean, you have to call it brave. You really do, because the amount of times that she has to go so deep into her past and her experiences. They're very method actors. They go into places that they don't want to go, and they don't want to stay there long, and it messes them up for the whole day. And we asked so much of her, and then when you see it on screen, you see those tears shooting out of her face, and this just like this uncaged just emotion. When we were editing it the whole time, I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe we made her do this shit. Like, this is kind of like painful to watch a lot of times.
You could tell carries the movies for a lot of stretches as the leading lady, and it's her story. But also, like, I think audiences are really responding to her work too. I mean, Matt's great as well. They're both really carrying the movie as a two-hander, but she's really pops off the screen.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just like watching the trailer, like you never know. There's so much stuff out there now. The beauty of the internet is the ability to be like heard, but also now it's like a needle in a haystack. So like there's like movies that I've seen that no one has seen, even people that we've had on here where I'm like, holy shit, like, this dude Tom Ryan, sent us like he's from Jersey, and he did like something called Return to Bizarre Theater. I forget exactly what it was called, but it was like an anthology, and I watched this like fucking movie, and I was just like, holy shit. I was like, this is 5 stories that are fucking great. So that's the vibe that I got from the trailer. Was like, it didn't feel like it was just like amateurish at all. It just felt like a really good movie. Even like the direction. You're the director, right, Will?
Yeah. Sorry, my name is Will Kresch. I'm the director of Alone Together, and this is Eric Schmecky Wright. He's my partner in crime, my oldest and best of allies. He produced the movie and brought it to life with me. So we're kind of the core team amongst a lot of people that are really close for a really long time. So that's our role in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and like just even like the direction in the trailer, like I said, I mean it's like super unique, and I like it. It reminds me of a few things, so like I just wonder, like, as far as like influences go for direction, like what were some of the people that you grew up like admiring?
Yeah, it's funny because I was waiting for you to like start drilling me with like horror movie questions, and my biggest confession is, as much as I do love a good horror movie, those aren't the movies that I want to watch, but they're the ones that I want to make, if that makes sense. So I've always
very relatable.
Yeah,
very well, because like, so I play in a band, and the shit that I play, I almost never listen to. Like my playlists are like 90% predominantly like hip hop, like goon, like just the most ignorant shit you'll ever want to listen to. And then when I play guitar, like, the songs sound like, the Get Up Kids or something like that, so it's like, okay, cool. Like, I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's funny. I wonder about that a lot of times, because you want to kind of have this, like, your first movie is a horror movie. You're supposed to have this kind of like persona and thing, which is totally great, and I'm not taking that away. And like Ari Aster lately, I mean, Beau's Afraid aside, the other stuff that he's done are movies that made me watch and be like, oh no, this can be actually scary. This can really, because Hereditary is a movie about distorted guilt and things like that. Midsommar is a breakup movie. When you get to the core of those things, Sartre is all about hell is other people. I'm very much that the monster is us, or the monster is you, or it's in you. And when it's in you, you can't escape it. And when it comes out of you, and I think we saw a lot of that in the pandemic. And I'm not just speaking from experience, because a lot, some of it is, it's always going to be a little bit autobiographical. But in the pandemic, I think we were faced with a lot of these demons. All of a sudden, you were locked down with someone that you maybe thought you knew or you didn't know, or was changing before your eyes. And that isolation, it just kind of makes people a little weird. And I heard so many real horror stories coming out of with abuse and all these relationships and all this kind of stuff, and some friends that were into some things that were really uncomfortable. And I thought that like the supernatural elements of this movie get woven through it, and they carry it through to its crescendo. But I think that like at the core of this, like the monster is what's in you, and if it's coming from within, you can't escape it. You have to either kill it or embrace it, and that's just as scary. So that's kind of like that's a roundabout way of saying it.
I was gonna say, as I get older, as a kid, I love movies. I love movies in general. I love everything. Like I'm in arts.
I'm a shitload of them too. My God, I was listening to your horror movie thing. You guys were rattling off. Man, you're prolific, dude. Those eyes of yours have seen things. My God.
Yeah. Well, we movies, music, pop culture, we snort lines of that shit all day long. So, we love that. But growing up, there are like the slasher movies that I love, and then all the shit that would never really happen. But as I get older, the movies that really connect with me are the ones where you said like we're like the villain. It's the evil that men do, where you're like, holy shit. There's certain movies. There's a movie called Red, White, and Blue that's like that.
We were talking about that. I was going to look that one up. I noted that one.
Yeah.
I'd heard it in passing. It sounds good.
Well, the plot you could read is just, this girl, has AIDS, and she knows, and she decides to take revenge on people, and, give it to all. It's a very brutal movie. Yeah, that's her revenge tool for the people that fucked with her. Just recently, there's a movie called, basically home invasions, like all that stuff, like where things feel like you're like, how can someone, like how can people do this, And it's funny that you say Midsommar is a breakup story, because when you peel away everything, it's kind of what it is,
That's what it's intent, yeah.
But it's done so wonderfully and in bright daylight that you don't even notice. Like when you watch it a second time and you realize exactly what's going on, you're like, oh yeah, how are these people this clueless to like that they're like the main course of everything going on here? So.
Yeah. Oh, it's and that reveal is so great, because like, as like a, ethno-cultural studier or whatever they're doing there, it's like it makes total sense that like they're so invested. They just want to push this as far as it goes to see it, and then they're just thinking about that, like the memoir afterwards or whatever their next project is. They're too blind and they're too self-indulgent and stuff like that. And then you mentioned home invasion movies, which they're always going to strike a chord, but the one that always messes me up is Funny Games. Actually, I like the second one with Michael Pitt, because I happened to see that first, so that's my Funny Games. Like that, so it's got that bright white preppy horror kind of thing, which I think is tough to do, especially when everyone in the movie is so goddamn pretty. But then as it gets more and more messed up, there's the moment when she gets the gun at some point and shoots them, and he goes, no, 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 no. He takes the remote and rewinds it on screen and goes back, and they play again. I'm like, you sons of bitches. Like,
yeah.
I'm the fucking victim here. Like, I was like, oh man, no, that's like, I don't know, that always hit me. Like,
that's the beauty of
making home invasion.
That's the beauty of making movies. Sometimes you forget like the cinematic universe that a movie could be. And I think if we want to go with A24, everything everywhere all at once, when you're like, oh, like movies are cool, and then you see something like you said, just rewinding is so ridiculous, but you're watching a fucking movie. So sometimes you watch a movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once, and you're like, oh, this is like the power of a movie and imagination. This is like what you could do, and man, you can't beat it.
Yeah, well, when you do it with horror, there's so many interesting ways to do it, because horror is always going to be one of those things that the point is when the screen is black, that's when it gets scary, because then you're alone and it's just what you just, soaked up for however long, hiding out in your, upstairs bedroom when your parents just thought you were sleeping or whatever. And the power of that, like, even The Ring, which is like, that's just of our generation when we saw them in the theater, that like, it's not like I thought someone was going to pop out of the TV, but just the whole concept of like the physical videotape being attached to this poltergeist and the TV and like the viewing of it and like, oh, don't watch, and like those kind of things when it comes into the real world. I think that when you like bridge that gap, it just can be so much fun. And I think that the best scary movies are the ones that like make you look over your shoulder in broad daylight. And that's like, if you can find ways to do that as a filmmaker, you're doing it right.
Yeah, fear is fun. Like fear can be fun if it's controlled. Obviously, it's not like you're jumping into a pit with alligators. You're basically, dipping inside your brain to see what you can come up with. It's the same as like jumping on a roller coaster. Like, more than likely you're not going to die, but you want to fucking feel that holy shit moment.
You're microdosing it.
Yeah, you're microdosing. Yeah. Next time I go on a roller coaster, I'm microdosing fear right now. Yeah. So that's the beauty. So like you said, it's not primarily what you're into as far as what you want to watch, but there is something like, to tell a story about, a relationship that we all could identify with. And then also COVID-19, which was like a mind fuck. Like it was really for like 18 months. It was like, yo, this is weird. This is like, like we were all in a movie, and then to be stuck with someone that you're like, I don't even want to be with this person, but I guess we're gonna fucking figure it out and stuff. So that's, super, super ripe for a plot. So like, what was the process of like coming up with this stuff? Like, as far as like, not even coming up with it, because you told me, but like just fleshing out the story.
Yeah, well, I mean, the COVID-19 of it all, like we knew we were in it. Like that was like, I don't know, May or April. It was early in the thing, and I was in Brooklyn, in a fourth floor walk up, and it was just literally all night, all day, sirens everywhere. And you look out the window, it's just sirens, and people literally. There's some shots in the movie, people like getting wheeled out of your apartment downstairs on stretchers, and you don't even know which one it is or who it is because you're too afraid to go and check and shit. And it was just that kind of like, who's next? When is this going to end? How is this going to end? I think in New York City in particular, at those moments, it was just so heightened for a lot of people who were like really in that soup. And then when it kind of dragged on, you got that kind of like stir crazy rage. And so that's how I kind of engineered it, because I knew there was going to be a ton, just naturally, there's going to be a ton of probably horror movies that are engineered with the COVID thing involved in it, and that's like totally fine. But mine was more about like what I wanted to feel at the end of that. And, not no spoilers or anything like that, but I wanted to just beat the shit out of something with this like righteous rage of like, this must end and I need to be the one that slits its throat. And I knew I wanted that kind of like triumphant, bloodied crescendo. And I started there and then kind of went backwards and tried to kind of figure out, all right, so what's real? Like where's the real pain? Let's find these moments that are, plot that course of things that are hopefully universal and they hurt enough to remind you of what you're going through, but it also allows you to have this circumspect, catharsis of hacking your way through them, which like any good slasher movie kind of does. And this is not a slasher movie. It's more grounded than that. But it's meant to be, like you said with the roller coaster, it's meant to be a ride. You want to feel that dip and you want to feel your guts hit your chest and everything. And then you swing back up and it might be better than, oh, Jesus, it's going down. And then by the time you bought it on the movie, our soundtrack is actually just bashing your brains in, and we are just like punching it to the moon. And it becomes like, let's throw down. This is a fucking ride. These people want us to enjoy this shit in a way that you couldn't at the time. So that's kind of like where the Nashin idea of this began.
Cool. And you said soundtrack. Like, tell me about that. Is it like a score or like some?
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Dude, that was my favorite thing in the world. So I also do a podcast. I've been on hiatus for a little while because of a baby and the movie and that kind of stuff. But it's a World War II hardcore history, but it's insanely over immersively sound designed with just, it's all about Japanese kamikazes. I bet you dig it, actually. There's a couple episodes like I think you'd really like, because I
hated Oppenheimer, so I don't know, you tell me.
No, this is way more brash and ridiculous. This is like if Robert Rodriguez did Hateful, or what's it called, Inglourious Basterds.
All right, just like now you got me back. Yeah,
I'll get you there. I think you'll dig it. I have like a really strong background in, making the explosions and the voiceover and all that kind of stuff, and really mining all those details. And then my really good friend Elvin Shabazian, he is an absolute G. He's got a couple of Grammys. He's worked with some, I'm not going to name drop, but some dudes you definitely know. And I knew, like, when we had the first draft of like when we had the first idea, I was like, I'm calling Elvin right now and I'm locking him down because he's hard to get. I'm like, listen, man, this is going to be my first one. It's gotta absolutely bring it. And he was like, I like this. I like you. Let's do this. And he works with John and Joel McNeil. They're like, we would go down to their studio in Delaware, and the room is it's all black light and red light, just a cavernous, just like serpentine keyboards and all this crazy shit everywhere. It's like a mad scientist laboratory. We'd put a scene on and let it loop for like 30 seconds, just like watch for a little while. And we would just like absolutely jam out on it. And what I did when I went down there was I scored the entire movie myself by taking every Shining. I used a lot of stuff from this movie Dark. I used a ton of stuff from Hereditary. Just all my favorite Valhalla Rising, all these like big, gnarly, awesome scores that like hit me in the soul. I took them, chopped them up, re-engineered them, remixed them, and scored the entire movie myself. And I brought it to them. I was like, listen, I know we can't do exactly this, but this is where my head is. So let's do a cooler version of that. So we went just piece by piece and treated them all as songs and moments. And I just let him kind of go. And I think some of the best things that happened in this movie are ones that I didn't expect or plan. And there's like a particular moment that we were not butting heads, but it was late. We worked from like 3 p.m. to 4 a.m. kind of thing, and just keep going at it overnight. And that's another, their work ethic is unbelievable. And we were just like deep in the weeds, couldn't get this one scene to work. I'm trying to get them to we're inventing new noises and all this kind of shit. And they're like, listen, man, you just take a walk, go outside. So I went outside and I'm smoking like a bouquet of cigarettes, and I'm hearing this noise coming from the inside. And I'm like, what the hell is that? I come back inside. This dude he's got a mandolin hooked up, plugged into something, playing through his keyboards, and it's just this like ding, 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 this like Western-y kind of vibe. And like to hear it alone, I'm like, what the fuck is going on in here? They're like, get out, just get the fuck, don't say another word, come back in 20 minutes, and if you don't like it, you're wrong. I'm like, all right. So I went back outside, finished off the pack of cigarettes, came back inside, and all of a sudden there's this thing that I never could have conceived of. I don't know exactly where it came from, but it's elegant and it's sneaky and it's like tricky and it's sexy. And I was just like, holy shit, like this is the coolest thing. And I never saw it on the map. And that's when you're working with people who are like on the level that you want them to be, and also they're better than you at their thing, and you need to give them the ball and let them run. And that was such an awesome moment. So
that's the best music cue in the movie, in my opinion, by the way. That's the garden right later. I don't want to give it any spoilers, but yeah, that's the best cue. And by the way, this is their first movie as a composer, Alvin's first movie. He's done tons of producing, but like he was incredible.
Yeah.
What is like the push and pull though? Because like even like when you co-write a script with someone, or even like this stuff, like when do you know to give that concession?
Well, with Elvin, it's easy because he's like the coolest dude I've ever known, especially with music. So if he's telling you something, you better be completely convinced in your soul that he's wrong, or else you're probably wrong. And you need to kind of like embrace that sometimes. And like, to be directing these soundtrack sessions, like I'm literally in there like, yeah, give me more, come on, like throwing my arms around, like conducting, just like I'll show you the videos of it. I get really into it, and it's just such a like I feel like Tar from like Kate Blanchett and Tar. I'm just like, and he's like, on the they re-engineered a couple of synthesizers to make all sounds that have never been made before, and that's what I love about it. And once you like, if you don't like it and you cancel that, whatever the hell you've built, that's gone. Like you cannot get that sound back. And I think that's like the specificity and the uniqueness of it gives it its own kind of like fingerprint. So I knew just from the way they were working, the sounds they were making, that I'm like, it's like, listen, man, you may be a wizard, but these guys are fucking like, sound high priests or whatever it is. So it was a little humbling. But then there were a lot of times when I fell victim of what they call studio ear. So I brought down these tracks that I lovingly recreated from other movies that had these sound cues and stuff. And you see a scene enough times with that sound cue, that's what it is to you. And it's really hard to change that. So you need to kind of like, just like put that on mute and try and see it with fresh eyes. And I would be trying to drill them into like making these things that already exist just in a different way. And they're like, listen, this is music. Like, this is different than that. It's not like a cooking recipe where it's like, hey, half the baking soda or whatever. Like this, we're gonna make new sounds here.
Yeah.
So that push and pull was the only thing I ever cared about, was like, does it make you feel something? Like, does that make you feel? Doesn't have to be the right sound or the wrong sound, but if it makes you feel, that's when you start creating these moments. And the soundtrack does so much lifting in this movie particularly, but every horror movie. And I knew that what you were leaving the theater with was going to be that score in a lot of ways. So, I mean, we spent, I don't know how many sessions we did. We thought we were going to knock it out in a week. I ended up going down there for like over 3 months and just like doing these like crazy 15-hour sessions with like a 4-hour nap, hit the diner, come back, and just go and go and go.
But I mean, that's passion, right? That's like doesn't even feel like work probably, because you can't sleep, when you're creating something like that, whether it be a song or whatever. It's like, like if I have a chorus that I'm trying to get, like it's constantly in my head until I get the right chord, but it doesn't feel like it's fun. That's why I could just tell from the way you describe it. It's like, that's what gets you going. And passion is crazy, man. Like I take it for granted sometimes because I feel like everyone has it. And then sometimes you talk to people that aren't passionate about anything, and I'm like, holy shit, that's fucking weird. Like nothing, like not even like, I don't know, paper airplanes or some shit.
Golf.
yeah, whatever, golf, why not?
And to kind of dovetail with that is like, as the director and the creator, like it is your job to be the most passionate dude in the room. Like if we're stopping, it's because like I think we got it. And that's like a heady thing, because you start second guessing yourself and you have to really kind of like try and, not fuck that up and know when you have it. And it gets very subjective. But these guys with Elvin and the Weathermen, when we're down there, it's the only people I've ever worked with where they outworked me in certain times. Like there were certain things that we weren't quite getting, and I'm exhausted. I'm knocked out. They just work for hours. Like 15 hours is usually the length, and they don't stop. And I'm done. I think we got it. I'm like, doing my little like heroin head nod in the corner while everything's blasting, and they are just still going and going and going. And I'm like, I think we're good. They're like, nah, shut up. And all of a sudden, it's like after an hour, it starts to change and turn into this new thing, and it starts coming from under, and it's this different kind of attack, and they're doing all these things. And now it's starting, like, I don't even remember where we started, but now that thing is like organically growing in front of your eyes. And that's what's so cool with music, where it's one of the only things where you can just start like, twisting some knobs and getting some keys. There's nothing, and then there's something. And when you are watching them, I won't say out passion, but like they knew there was more there, and they were finding it without me like trying to press. You're just like, oh yeah, this is art. We are on the same level. And it's absolutely the most fun creative experience I've ever had. Absolutely. Because being on set it's so much more like a high stakes, high wire act a lot of times, and shit can go wrong real quick. And it's a lot about time management, and it's just things that are so not out of your control. With those guys, it's alchemy. You are in the laboratory, and there's room for experimentation. And if you got people who are with you, like to the hilt, like all the people that were on this movie with me, you can really do some cool shit. So
yeah, that's awesome. It's also, it seems to be like a one location type movie, which is all, I enjoy those a lot. I just know that the actors got to be on point. I know that the script has to be like ridiculous to pull that off, which I feel like everything seems to be in place just from what I gather of the conversation. You know, like whether it's like the Hateful Eight, like that Tarantino Hateful Eight movie was like, whoa, like
Dude.
this is fucking bananas good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there's a movie, there was like an indie movie from like 2019 called Harpoon, which is like
I
one
don't know.
setting. Oh, it blew my mind. It like takes place on a boat, and it's three friends that
Oh,
are
sick.
all kind of like like they're like backstabbing each other, but no one knows what's going on.
Mhm.
Great, you know. So, what are some of like your favorite one location movies that might have maybe inspired some of this?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, it is a bottle movie, kind of out of necessity, just because we were doing this with like we were just borrowing, and stealing every shekel we could possibly find. So we knew we had to not only get the like perfect location, but also a place close to it to like house the crew, because we couldn't be driving people and doing hotels and stuff. So we lucked into our dear friend Christian Fiorina, who sadly is no longer with us, but he is one of the main reasons why this movie was able to happen. He found us that house up there because it was he was offering his dad's like ski place up in Vermont, and we couldn't shoot. There was like an A-frame. There was just no way to light it, and like right up the road was that. Cabin, and we got it for a song from people who did not know what we were doing there. And then it subsequently burned down, and I'm like a person of interest.
Wasn't our fault.
Whoa,
We won't go into
you're a
that.
person of
I'm
No,
interest.
not.
he's kidding. He's kidding. It was a year after we wrapped.
They were looking for us, man, because we were the last people up there, and then all of a sudden it just like went up, and it's like
The heating, like
we were
we
worried
almost
about going
melted so
back.
many rugs the whole time because the vents in the floor got so hot. Like the thing was a liability. It was gonna go up at some point.
Yeah. Wow.
For
Listen.
the fire scenes, we had to have someone up on the roof, which was Christian, with just like a light mist of hose to make sure no embers just like hit the roof and touched it off, because we
Yeah,
would have been barbecued.
it was a cedar house. Yeah, it was like gonna go.
Wow. Okay. Well, listen.
So
Our
I didn't mean to not answer
We're not
not
culpable.
answer your question there, because I do love me a good bottle movie. I think one of the ultimates is Das Boot. The old school German movie, because like I absolutely felt like I had fucking crabs after watching that movie. Like you're so there, and it becomes like stinky and fetid, and like the tension is so high. I like that kind of a movie, just because it's about the crew, and it's kind of independent of the outside world, because it's like a story of like survival and man like stuck in a place. I'd love to hear what you've got in your mind also.
what I thought about what?
For as far as bottle movies, I'm trying to think of whatever. I'm trying to think of what my other favorites are.
I
Oh,
think another that AV might have influenced him when he was early on was Hush. Is that what it's called? The
oh,
one with the blind woman.
that movie is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And just because there's a point in the movie, I don't want to give a spoiler, but our heroine has a setback and she's waylaid. She's not really able to achieve her goals or like do what she wants to do. So she's kind of stuck there in a way that protagonist was too, with a disability. So I think that like kind of loosely informs some plot choices. If I could speak for AV, I don't know. You'd have to elaborate, but that
No.
movie was fucking dope.
That movie was
And
really good. Yeah, it
yeah,
like came out of. I feel like it was just like a Netflix release or something. Like
yeah,
I just feel like it popped up. You know, there's back in the day there was like direct to video, there was like theatrical. Now there's just like, like you could be like, hey, have you checked out Freevy's new there's so many avenues to get your stuff out, which is cool, I think. But once again, it's just harder to get people to pay attention to certain things. But
for
so
sure.
like I know you guys have a premiere on the 9th, so we're going to put this episode out on Monday for the Big Apple Film Fest. So yeah, how'd that come about?
yeah. I mean, it's so funny how this process has kind of happened, especially lately, because we went out to a ton of fests when we thought we had like a really cool, slick movie, and just no one would bite for a while. And you have this inner fear that if you make a movie and no, it doesn't play in the theater, did you even make a movie? And we put in so much work, and we put in, not that going to video isn't a thing, but like you need to have that payoff. I'm one of the people that believes that like a shared experience, especially of a horror movie in a public place on a big screen, that's like you gotta
100%.
do that.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So Yeah, so there was a while where I'm looking at Schmeck, I'm like, anyone nibbling? And we're like, no, I don't know what the fuck. All right, I thought we were cool. I thought this was, I don't know. And it started to get real dark, and we're like, I don't know what we're gonna do with this. And then boom, all of a sudden we popped off with a couple of really nice fests, and Screamfest in LA being one.
Oh,
Which, dude, you have you ever gone to Screamfest by any chance?
no, but that sounds like, definitely relevant to my interest.
Yeah,
Dude,
it's great.
take yourself and your dude and your microphones and go there and just check out some really weird shit. And it's so fun as a creator because you're there with other creators who have gone through similar trials and tribulations. They've had to do weird shit and difficult things to get these movies on that screen. And it's at a level where it's not like there's like, the movie that premiered there, Dominion, is insane. And as soon as that comes out, I'm gonna call you and say, hey, or is it Dominion, right?
It's
Dominion.
Divinity.
Divinity. All right, so close. But Steven Dorff doing very
Oh,
It's a strange one.
I know the movie. I know the
Yeah.
movie because I know Steven Dorff is in it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
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 So that premiered there, and that was just like that, and that was the first festival that
The
we got
opening
into.
night movie, yeah.
It was our world premiere, and you're walking around this fest, and there's like real people there. You're like, holy shit, dude. Like we did something cool. And like the two sexiest things you can say at a festival is, yes, I have a feature, and yes, it's my first directorial debut. And when you're saying it there, people were like, how? What do you mean? And we honestly didn't really realize, like, not that we're like, cool or anything like that, but we didn't realize like the level that this festival was, because we'd never done this before. We've never applied to film festivals. I've never thought we'd get this. I thought we'd get this far, but I didn't know we'd get this far. And then when you're kind of like in that film festival world, like it's heady. Like it's like, holy shit, there's people in that theater. And I don't watch the screen at that point. I just watch them. And you're watching people squirm to that scene that you killed yourself to make. And then that sound cue happens and you get a jump, and you're just like, shit. Like it's somewhere between like imposter syndrome and just like a little bit of a fantasy, because I mean, it's something I just always wanted. I
Yeah.
wanted to do this so goddamn bad, and no one gives you a movie, man. You don't just like get a movie. You got to claw
Nah,
it out of
you
your
got you got
soul.
you gotta fucking do it, man. You gotta just do, I'm always amazed at like just, I have friends that have made movies and continue to make movies. And it's the same thing where it's like you fucking do it. You figure out a way to do it. So anyone that does it, wow,
Yeah,
salute to you, and I
I'm
will
so
always
impressed by people who make it. And so that, I mean, the other thing was like, I knew I had this very small window to actually become a director, and it's something I always thought I never was, but always wanted to be. And my wife was pregnant, and we were about to have a son, and I knew I had a couple months before this kid pops out where I can actually do this, because once he's out, there's no fucking way that anyone would ever like leave home to go be on set for like 2 months and all that and do all the madness. It takes your entire self. You have to completely commit to it. But I knew that at some point I needed to wrap my fingers on this little kid's shoulders and stare deep into his eyes and say, son, if you go all in on something, if you love something and you need to do it so much that you set yourself on fire and you go all the way to the hilt, you can do any goddamn thing you want to do.
Oh, yeah.
And if I didn't do that myself, it would just be words.
Yeah.
And as a father, or someone who at that point who wanted to be a father, I knew that I had to do this. I had to do this. And I had like 8 months at that point to get this thing in the can, because we're not getting reshoots when the baby comes. So it's like, it was a bit of it. Like, I had that one arrow to shoot right there. And the beauty of this movie, the way it's been going so far, my selfish goal was to get a chance to make a bigger movie. That's what this is for me. And a lot of people came with me on that. And now that we'll be at Big Apple Film Festival in coming back home to New York City. I hope you'll make it, man. We'll throw you a good party, I promise.
What is that? I don't know what the 19th is as far as
No, it's the 9th. It's Thursday night. It's 6:30 p.m. We're the closing show of the festival, which is definitely a cool thing. We'll have after party afterwards and get all all giggly, and we can spin the wheel and all that. Yeah, it should be a party, and the movie, it's a ride. Like horror movies, thriller movies, that's what I wanted to make. It's something that at the end of, you're standing over the bloody, battered corpse of your malefactors with that coppery flavor of victory in your mouth, and you've survived, and you're victorious, and it wasn't easy. And that's how I feel about making the movie. That's how I feel about Deanna's place in the movie. That's how I feel about the friendships that were battered in the storm of this movie and came out the other side. And all we want to do is make another bigger, better movie and get people to trust us with some more money. And so, yeah, I'm psyched about it.
And I think, once again, the big things for me is the trailer looks really good. The direction in the trailer looks like someone who is a student of the game. Like every shot, like it just seemed like you just know what you're doing. Very, like, what you're doing for sure. And then the plot is, it's just so ripe for a story there. Like it's so hard to come up with something original that hasn't been done, because it just is what it is. It's just your filter of way of telling it. But I think the story seems unique, and it's at a time where everything seems fucking extra weird. That this story lived, in seclusion somewhere. So yeah, I'm all for it. So where was I didn't even get where the premiere was. Like, where's
Oh
the
yeah,
theater?
sorry. It's in Los Angeles at the Chinese theater for
No,
Screen
but the
Fest.
one in New York. The one in New York.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. Yeah, so the New York City premiere is at Village Cinema Village in it's kind of over by NYU, in the East Village. It's like what, 13th and
Yeah, I think it's 12th Street. This coming Thursday at the Big Apple. That'll be our New York premiere.
I think I know where that is. It's like,
Yeah, it's an old great theater. Yeah,
I think
got a couple screens.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I think I saw Animal Factory there, which was an interesting movie.
All right on.
Cool. Well, I guess that's basically it. So I'm gonna put the links up and all that other stuff. I'm gonna try to make it 6:30. I live in West Babylon, Long Island.
Gotcha.
So 6:30 on a work day is very tough unless I just like leave early. But I would love to. I would love to sit in a theater and eat popcorn and watch this movie and meet you guys. So, yeah. So let's try to make it happen. And thanks for hanging out. Thanks for telling me about the movie, and man, all the success.
We really appreciate your time. You guys are a hoot. We're going to be listeners forever, and we will strive to do something cool enough to get back on here real soon.
Whenever, yeah, whatever you guys want to do. Like, it's like, we have topics all the time, and this is just like, low pressure. We just kind of like talk about the shit that we really are passionate about, So the invite for anyone is always there. So thanks for hanging.
Cool. Thanks, Sam.
I'll put it out Monday, and send me all the links.
Yeah, I'll do that.
It shall be done.
Later, guys.
Thanks, man.
Nice meeting you.
On the things no one cares about, but they mean the world to you.